For this summer, I'm going to be spending the time going through adventure games, puzzle games, and doing all manner of Sokoban. But for today's video, we're only going to the advanced side, as we're only talking about when we see the elements of layers, and when it's not just as simple as solving puzzle or inserting key into lock. Puzzle design has been a major part of evolution beyond just the growth of puzzle games in the past 15 to 16 years. We've seen a strong push to raise the quality and bar when it comes to puzzles. That's no longer just, here's 300 single screen rooms, go through them in order, call it a day. There's been more this idea of elevating puzzle design, that the puzzles don't exist in just the ether anymore. There's a world, there's more to do beyond just solving them. And this brings up this kind of concept and notion of having layers to your puzzle design. That if layer 0 is beat the game, layer 1 is when we start getting to the advanced stuff. This is when we get to post-game challenges, alternate endings, the true ending. Some games go to a layer 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. By the time we get to layer 8, you're having to travel to a specific coordinates to find a key that will open up a lockbox in another state that will give you the exact directional positioning to go into the ocean, to go under there, to find a buried treasure that will reveal the key you need to enter in to open up the next part of the game. And when we look at how much puzzle design has been elevated over the years, you can see why there is popularity in doing this, because this is how you really start to make your puzzle games stand out from everyone else. One of the first examples of this would be something like the Talos principle, where you have each individual puzzle in its own little quadrant area. But then there are puzzles that will require you to do stuff outside of it, or using an item that's locked in a puzzle room to link to something else over here, to then go over here, to that will solve something. And when we look at kind of more modern examples, or even just in the last 4 to 5 years, you can start with something like Tunic. Tunic's whole puzzle design revolved around its in-game manual. You find more pages, it reveals more information, and if you can solve it all, or look it up like I did, you learn there's a lot more, especially if you're trying to go for the true ending, that lead to some quite literal game-breaking things you need to do in order to get through it. You can then turn to stuff very recently with blueprints, that getting to that final room is an accomplishment in of itself. But there is so much more of that game that A, I did not look up, and B, I would never solve it in a million years. And this presents the problem when it comes to this kind of layering style of puzzle design. How do you get someone to go through all those many hoops? You will have people who, they will start a game, they see the end, they're done. Game close, uninstall, we're never playing it ever again. Yes, maybe they only did 40% of the map, have 10 of 60 secrets found, but the game's done for them. And you will have that person who will go through every single room, every single tile, to find every single secret. They will get 700% no matter how many days, weeks, months, years, whatever it takes to get through it. And as a developer, it's important to kind of set what you consider to be the expectations of beating the game. This is a really good parallel when we talk about very challenging and difficult reflex-driven titles, where the normal route of the game may go to a 6 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. If you can beat that, you beat the game. Then when you get to the post-game content, the extra challenges, then the gloves come off, and you're going to be really tested to it. Are you required to do that extra stuff? No. The game never will outright say you must do this or you haven't beaten the game. But it presents these extra hurdles, this extra stuff that if someone wants more game, it's there for them. But again, as a developer, you have to be able to figure out what you expect the intended route of your game to be. And when we look at titles that try and go above and beyond this respect, especially when it comes to puzzle design, it can be quite hard to explain to someone that maybe didn't quite see everything. Void Stranger is a game that I really loved, and again, I will admit that I had to look up some of those solutions because this brain was not figuring them out. It is a game that if you just go through it vanilla, it's a relatively interesting Sokoban experience. If you want to go further than that, there is a ton more to do in that. And this again goes beyond just stating, okay, you beat level 10, but now there's level 11, 12. It goes to something like, oh, you thought that was just Sokoban. Now we're doing pattern matching. Now we're doing decrypting codes and cryptology. Can you solve all this? And I'm sure there's even more to that game than even what I saw. And you, again, have to be aware of what it's like to play this game from beginning to end. And where can you kind of nudge the player, in some respect, to get them to keep going. Because if you make it so obscure that, hey, you beat the game, but guess what? There's still 20 more hours of content that we never told you about or ever hinted at, people are going to be a little bit pissed off. Here's a bit of a question, because again, it's too late to unfortunately get into our time machine to go back. But for people who were fans of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, what did you think about the twist of the reverse castle? Again, the game is now, oh my goodness, 30 years old thereabouts, so I think we can spoil that one. But again, this was in the pre-internet era. How many people uncovered that by themselves? How many of them knew how to use the clock in the specific clock room? Or get those, magic shades? What they did in Symphony of the Night was once again use the idea of breadcrumbs to guide the player. Yes, you can beat the game by going to Dracula's castle that's like somewhere here by my finger. But so much of the map is going to be left unexplored. There are going to be so many rooms and parts that either you didn't know how to get into them, or just like this entire chunk of the map is grayed out because you never went there. But if you never went there, then what was the purpose of it? Well, let's go and see. And you'll uncover more upgrades, more clues. You find that the spike breaker armor that guides you to that one hallway. And then you learn that, hey, maybe there's more to it than what you just saw. Maybe there's a way to save Richter. And for everyone who does all that and solves all the puzzles and beats all the extra bosses, they are of course rewarded with a ton more game to play. And that ton more game adds even more to it. And again, it makes something that was good even better. And I think this is a really strong approach. And again, it goes with something that we saw with Animal Well. Although Animal Well went even further with its multiple layers of advanced puzzles and things to do. But you need to give the player, and this is something that we talk a lot about, especially in like Metroidvania and action-adventure design. The player needs to understand that there is more. They don't need to know what that is. They don't need to know how to access it. But they need to be given some kind of push, or just like that little light bulb that says, hey, there's something, over there. Yeah, you beat the game, but what's all this space that you didn't go to? And you don't have to outright come out and say, oh, you want the true ending, you need to find the 10 marbles hidden throughout the 80,000 screens. Because again, there will be people that if you present them with a great enough game, they will want to see more of it. And there have been some titles, I think we played one last year, that was or even earlier in 2026, that was a action-adventure Metroidvania where it just outright says, maybe if you did something, this door would be open, or this character will help you. Well, maybe you should go back and keep looking at things. And like we said, there are people who have different mentalities when it comes to games, and this is the question for those of you watching. What is your completionist attitude? Do you go for 60%, 90%, 100%, 150%, 324%? How much do you go before you say that the game is done? And people, again, have different mentalities when it comes to this, and you're never going to capture everyone. As we talk about with blueprints, there are people who are probably still trying to find every single secret and MacGuffin in that game. And there's people like me who the second they got to that final room and got you win, that's it, we are done. Pull the ripcord, we are out. And there are people who probably got like 5 rooms in, got incredibly frustrated, uninstalled the game and never play it ever again. And like we've talked about when it comes to player churn rates and understanding this, you're never going to get everyone on the same page. And again, there's a lot more to puzzle design that we'll probably talk about in future videos. But for the sake of this one, when you are thinking about your puzzle experience and your puzzle design in this form of layers, you want to again come up with what is the baseline, what is your kind of bar low or bar at the lowest point that you expect someone to play if they want to experience your game. Is it about them understanding and figuring out Pig Latin? Is it as simple as push the blue box onto the blue tile to open up the blue door? And from there, you want to be thinking about how to give those breadcrumbs. Again, you can be as overt or as covert as you so choose, but there has to be something. Some snippet, no matter how small or innocuous that you want to make it, that educates a player that there's more to this game. Even again, if it's as simple as saying, you beat the game, total completion, 23%, 33%. And if people love your game and they realize that 75% of the map they never even experience, there has to be more of this game. The developer didn't let them just finish the game at 25% because that's all there is to it. And if people are so well inclined, they will do all that. They will jump through the hoops. They'll go through as many white palaces that you can throw at them, and they'll keep going. But when we look at how puzzle complexity grows and evolves, this is one of the biggest changes with how much the industry and consumers have changed in the past 30 years. As we talked about, in the 90s, aiming into the early 2000s, the internet wasn't really a big thing. Especially not as big as it is today. Today, the absolute millisecond someone gets stumped on a puzzle, no matter how small or as complicated as it can be, they can rush to a forum, the Steam guide, YouTube, Twitch, and chances are someone has that solution up in painstakingly detail that you can watch that video and get through it. And the same goes for these advanced layers. As we talk about with stuff like Tunic, Animal Well blueprints, I am absolutely certain that there are videos or at least websites and printed guides or web guides of how to get all that advanced stuff done. As I said, if there was an advanced guide to Tunic, I would never have seen that true ending. And as a developer, you have to kind of take this when you're thinking about balancing your game. Do you expect beating your game to be a collaborative effort? Because there are developers who take that into account, that they're expecting their hardcore fans to pour over every single detail, every single line of code on every single file that's in the folder of their game to figure it out. There are people who even event these ARGs, that they think that there's more to it, that maybe the developer hid this code that if you watch this movie backwards while the game is playing, it will give you a 7-string passcode that if you use a specific item in the game to decrypt will unlock an additional ending that will only lead to more solutions. Somewhere a puzzle designer just jumped out off their rooftops thinking about programming that. And again, this can lead to excitement, But this is not the excitement I would say is marketing for a title. Telling someone that, hey, this game that you played, there's actually 200 more hours of puzzles that are so hidden that only the top 0.0025% of the player base will ever solve, is not going to be all that exciting about it. And there's a greater conversation that's beyond the scope of this video to be had about just how much advanced and hardcore challenges really act as good marketing for games like this. And to go back again to stuff like Blueprints and Animal Well, what they did really solid was, again, present their game, and why we talk about this in terms of layers. Layer 0 is beat the game. For a lot of people, this layer is enough. Then we go to layer 1, that's more advanced. Layer 2, layer 3. But the problem, and this is something that it's very hard to reconcile, is that if you beat the game at layer 0 and you realize layer 1 is maybe a little too much for you, you can at least leave on a note that I beat the game. It's finished. Got my achievement, saw the credits, good to go. But if you're on layer 3 of 7 and you're not figuring out why or what language you need to translate this text into to then take to the decoder ring, to then retranslate into another language in order to solve, you're going to probably be very annoyed. And that's another good question for those of you watching. For the brave souls out there who did dig into all the layers of puzzle games like this, did you get stumped? And if that did happen, how did that feel to know that you're maybe somewhere between 50 to 99% done solving this amazing puzzle, and you have no idea whatsoever what you're doing? And as a final question for everyone watching, without spoiling it, mind you, what are some of your examples or favorite examples of games that went above and beyond in terms of their puzzle design? Whether it's by taking something simple, making it complicated, throwing in multiple wrinkles and layers of puzzles, and how did it motivate or demotivate you to keep going? And another topic, I want to talk about kind of the game that does a very more streamlined approach with something like Loreline and Laser Eyes. Maybe that'll be a preview for an upcoming video. So stay cool this summer, keep those thinking caps on, and we'll be back with more puzzle, adventure, and design talks coming soon. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.